what life was like before you come on the program. You know, what kind of things you're doing, how did you feel?
I wasn't doing anywhere near as much as I used to, and I think that's what prompted me to join the program. Really, I think I was stuck in a massive rut, and I just didn't really know how to sort of get out of it. I kept, week on week saying, right, this is the week, and I'd sort of get a couple of days in, and it's like, no, back to square one again. So I think I said to you at the beginning, I think lockdown had become a bit of a convenient excuse, and it certainly didn't help. But I think the rot and the ruts had set in a little bit before that. But I think I was just clinging on because of various things I was still doing with my friends and stuff. And then once that went, so I wasn't doing a great deal. I wasn't as active as I wanted to be. I'd got in some bad and very lazy habits with eating, and yeah, it wasn't great. I didn't feel great. I don't think I realised how rubbish I felt until I started feeling better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think I recognised it at the time until I started feeling, and I thought, oh, this is more like it. But it was only sort of looking back on it that I thought, God, I really did feel pretty rubbish to begin with.
And
I think I think I said to you at the beginning, I'm quite good at sort of hiding to myself as much as anyone else how I feel about things. I don't think, once I acknowledge it myself, I'll talk about it. I think it's getting to that place where I acknowledge that how I'm feeling about something rather than hiding it from myself. And once I've done that, yeah, that's when you came along, I think.
And what would you say your kind of biggest struggles at the time? I know we spoke about motivation was come up about 6 or 7 times in our phone call. You spoke about losing weight because you're not as active, but what would you say there was your kind of biggest struggles, or was there anything else behind that?
No, I think I did want and need to lose weight, definitely. There's no question about that. I think the biggest thing for me was just feeling like I wasn't doing anything, like I was all the activities that I used to do had kind of like slipped away, and I was very conscious of the fact that I was like in my mid-40s, and rather than seeing it as I'm only in my mid-40s, I was like, I'm in my mid-40s, and the next thing I could see was 50, and sort of this spiral of it getting worse, that I do even less, I put on even more weight, and I think I said to you, I think this like fat and frumpy 50s was the way that I see it, and it was just it was that was playing on my mind a bit as well. I am, even though I did need to lose weight, I don't think I was suffering any particular health effects of that. But I was conscious that, again, moving forward as I got older, if I didn't do something about it, that was a bit of a concern as well, because I've always been quite active. I've always done stuff, and even though that hadn't gone entirely, I thought, well, if I leave this much longer, it will be. So I was worried a bit on the health front, but not massively so. It was just more of a looking forward into the future.
Yeah.
That if I carry on this path, it's not going to get any better, and certainly could get worse. But it was just more about how I was feeling about myself, which was more about not doing very much rather than weight or stuff like that. I was always really conscious about my face being chubby. I think I mentioned that, and probably the rest of me was as well. But you see a photo, and that's what you see, isn't it, more than anything? Especially, your friends and stuff, and you take selfies, and that's what you see. And so all I could see was this sort of chubby face. So on the physical front, that's the bit that was bothering me. I don't think I realised how big I'd actually got until I weighed myself that first time, and that was a bit of a shock and a trauma. But it was on the physical front, it was more like, I don't like the way my face looks, because it seemed to have gone quite chubby. I was feeling quite sluggish all the time, and I knew how much better I feel when I'm actually doing stuff, and it was that rut that I couldn't get out of, sort of knowing if I get my backside into gear, I will feel better, and if I feel better, then I'll start eating better, and I'll start. But getting past that point was just proving really, really difficult for me. So it was kind of a spiral of things that all came from sitting on my backside and feeling lazy and rubbish.
And do you remember the goals you kind of had when we first spoke? I've got them here, but kind of what you wanted to achieve out this program.
I think, gosh, it seems like 5 minutes ago, but 7 years ago at the same time. That phone call. I think I did. Obviously, I wanted to lose some weight, but I wanted to just feel just better about myself and feel that I was active. I was doing stuff, and that feeling that I used to get from when I was exercising, that buzz, I wanted that back, because I felt that if I was more active, then the other stuff would follow. It always seems to happen that way around for me, rather than I'll eat better if I feel like there's a point to, I don't know, it sounds a bit daft really, but for some people it's like they fix the diet and then they'll start exercising more. It's kind of been the other way around for me. I needed to sort of shift myself, and that I knew would lead to doing some of the other stuff. So I think it was just about, I wanted to look better, but I wanted to feel better, and I wanted to just get more active again, and feel like I was only 45 and look what else I can do with my life, rather than, oh God, I'm 45 and everything and I'm finished and that's it now. So I think it was around that kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much that. And you put, I got a couple of notes here. You want some direction. We put / motivation because that come up quite a lot, and some education on lifestyle, which we'll kind of go into a little bit more now, because I just want to talk about what's been your wins on this 90 days. And I think with you, similar to Phil, there's probably that many. We can probably from day one or that week one, I can still remember them first couple of weeks when you first joined to where you are now, where I think you touched on it the other week, where it's got to a stage where you're not even thinking about it now. It's not challenging you anymore because you've built it into your lifestyle. So let's talk about, in your eyes, what's been your biggest wins out of this 90 days?
Well, the biggest and most obvious one is I've lost 2 stone. So that's a fairly obvious win on a sort of fairly shallow front. But, it is good because although it wasn't the only thing that I was interested in, I did need to lose weight. And it was only when I joined I realised how much I needed to lose. And so that's been a massive win. I think I'd started to build a few better habits because I'd started to do a little bit of the food planning and things like that. So I wasn't going from a completely standing start with that stuff, which I think helped, because when then I got on the programme, it was about building on that, not changing everything. So that's one of the things that lockdown was good for, because I started looking at different ways of cooking and not just for myself, but for my family. So it's motivated me even more that that's the right thing to do, to build on that. So that's been a big win. I'd sort of started with that, but I've built on that and realised how very important that is, and what a difference that can make to sort of eating well and not being hungry. Because I think, it's not like been some ridiculous drastic weight loss, but I still have lost quite a bit in that space of time. And it's about stressing that, that's not being done through anything wacky or anything like starving me. Quite the opposite. I'm probably less hungry now than I was before. And it's what I'm doing and what I'm eating. So that's been a massive win. It's taking those little good habits I'd started to build just through having a bit of time during lockdown, and taking that to the next step, and understanding a bit more about, protein and stuff like that, which was completely, I was completely oblivious to that side of things. So that's been a big win in sort of doing that. A big win is just getting me active again. I've been exercising. I've remembered what I liked about it, even when I've been cursing you during, when you've like upped it a bit and it's got a bit tricky. That feeling that I have, not so much during it, but when I've done it, that's been brilliant. And a big win is that, well, you listened to me at the beginning when I said that, I do like to exercise, but I'd started to feel a bit overwhelmed with everything that I tried to do. So it was like, oh, I've not done that for ages, and I'm not as fit as I was, so I can't do that. So I'll do nothing instead, was kind of the answer. And I said that probably little and often would help, which is what we did. Mm-hmm. So it's, that win is just doing it and enjoying doing it. And that's got me back into doing other stuff that you've not told me to do. So, the running, started doing a bit more of that again, getting my bike out again and getting on that, and cycling. And so it was that. It was that accountability that we talked about right at the beginning was a massive thing for me. It's been quite an insight into how my mind works, all this, to be honest. So yeah, the eating better, the exercising better, and a big win. I've really enjoyed the group. It's not just about, you've got this app and you set some tasks and stuff like that, which is great because I needed that to get me going again. But the bit that has been really nice is just that sort of sharing stuff within the group, tips and just, when you hit a bit. I mean, I didn't hit a massive wall, but I did hit a little bit of a wall, not as much as I was expecting to be honest. I think that's just because lockdown was still on, I had a bit more time on my hands, so my wall might come yet. But just sharing that and knowing it's okay and other people are having the same things, and it's just been a really, really nice group to be a part of. So that's been a win, and obviously, I've made friends in that group that I'm sure will continue. So that's been a sort of unexpected win, because I didn't really understand at the beginning what the group was, because I think it's hard to explain until you're in it. So that was another a win throughout the 90 days has been that really.
That's great. Well, we was going to actually touch on about the group and the kind of difference between, a training program and a diet plan, and you pretty much just summed the group up there. It is quite hard to explain, but to actually join a group of people that you've never met, they're all on the same kind of journey, and you've just said there you've made friends that you're going to carry on seeing or meeting up or speaking to once everything's finished, all the program, all the lockdown, everything's finished. That is why the group was invented, to create that little community, that team of people that are all doing the same kind of thing and supporting each other. So that's a massive win. That's up there with obviously the weight loss, because you've got support there. You've got people who are willing to help you as well, and you're willing to help them. And I think my biggest win for you, or thing, was the mindset, the change. I don't know what week it was, but it was about the training. And I remember us talking about it. You missed one training session, and I'll bring it up quite a lot, and you're beating yourself up because you missed one training session. And we just said, well, you've done tick, 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 everything else perfect, and you're beating yourself up on one thing. And I think that week you actually went home that weekend and just had to think about it. And, you just change, your mindset changed from then. You actually focused on what you was in control, rather than one thing you missed or one thing you was beating you up on. And I think that was the biggest change in you. And it was like a switch. something we saw in you. Your diet, you know, you weren't even too far, you know, you was finding these, probably in the past where you've been so strict and beat yourself up for having some chocolate or something. This is where, you know, you could include it, and you know, you was talking about it in the group, and obviously you changed your training a little bit. We adjusted things, you know, the kids club started opening up in the rugby, so you started to understand that it had to be flexible around you and not as rigid. And like I said, the advice he was giving the other people in the group as well, and still even last week was on about it. So that was the biggest probably win for me, because that's what the group's for, and that's what the program is for, to make it flexible of you, but obviously you to pass your knowledge on to other people as well who are just starting. So I love that. So kind of,
I think that helped me figure out where I was going wrong before as well.
Yeah.
You know, when you say, like, you know, right at the beginning, it's like you've tried stuff before and stuff. And I think that was a part of where I was going wrong, which again has been a win for me with this. Just sort of setting myself not unachievable goals, but setting myself something, getting it in my head, and if it doesn't quite go to plan, just giving myself too much of a hard time. And that's what's, you know, you say the penny dropped eventually, because I think there were a couple of times when I said it and you said exactly the same thing, and I went, yeah. And then it was on that particular week where it was a bit of a light bulb moment, and my whole mentality around it seemed to change. It was weird, really, but weird in a good way. And I've not done it since. I've not given myself such a hard time, and I was frightened, and I know where it came from, where I figured it out in the end. I was frightened that once I'd got going again, if I stopped, I wouldn't start again. If I lost any momentum, if I should have done 4 workouts and I only did 3, but I didn't do that 4th one, would I start the week after? And that's not happened. But that was where it came from. It was that it's not like I'm, some complete lunatic. Well, I am, but not in that way. It was fear. It was fear of stopping and not starting again once I started. And again, that's what really helped me, is just sort of saying that out loud within, either with you or within the group. Just saying it out loud and sort of figuring it out, that's where it came from, actually made me go, all right, yeah. Right,
it was great to see. So kind of talking, if anybody's just a bit of advice, 1 or 2 things advice you'd give anybody who's either just starting off on this or are thinking about starting something like this, what would your kind of top tips or top advice to be?
For anyone, I think, who's just joining, who's joined onto the programme, I would say, and I know not everyone is in a position to do so, and people have got completely different work commitments and shifts and all sorts that may prevent them from doing so. So I completely get that when I say this. But what has really helped me more than anything is engaging with the group and engaging what's going on, even if it's just, you might not be able to make a Zoom call. They've really helped me, even if some of the weeks you just sort of having a bit of chit chat. Obviously, it's all going to be relevant. Some are more focused than others. Some are just a bit of a catch up. That really helps me keep focused on what I'm trying to do. That's why I've been on pretty much every one, because that's what it does for me. It's, I might not come out of one particular, there'll always be something useful that comes out of it. But for me, it's like I might have had the world's busiest week, and that's, it's starting to happen again now. But that time with the group keeps your eye on the prize, kind of thing, and what you're trying to achieve and what you're part of. That massively helped me. So I would say that if you can, I know being on camera and stuff is not for everyone, or you could even be there and not have your camera on. That I would advise, or even if it's just interacting with the group, even if it's just putting stuff in. Again, for me, it did make a massive difference for me, that even if it's just something a bit daft I've put in sometimes, that keeping engaged has kept me focused on what I'm doing, but in a positive way as well, because sometimes you might just be having a laugh, but it's really just kept me going. So that would be my biggest advice, is that if you are just starting out, do try and get get involved as much as you can, because there are some really nice people who want to help and support, and sometimes if you get engaged and say something, there'll be another person going, oh God, yeah, I thought that as well, thought it was just me. So yeah, that would be a big thing for anyone just joining on. And just to say, don't panic as well when things might not go to plan. I had a relatively easy ride of it, in the sense of I started when I've done most of my 90 days still in lockdown, so I've had it a bit easier, I think, than some of the people who'll join on now who've got lots more things to juggle. Don't beat yourself up when it goes a bit wrong, because it will, and that's fine. The other thing for anyone who's thinking about joining on, I would say, well, you know, it's hard to know what's the right thing for any individual. All I can say is it was definitely the right thing for me. And for anyone who's sort of, you know, at that beginning, or you might be having a look at some Instagram posts, or you might have that initial phone call. Obviously, I can't say whether it was right for any one individual, but what I can say is probably all them thoughts that you're having in your head about, you know, is this the right thing? You know, shall I go for it? Shall I not? I had all them same thoughts, and I decided to give it a go. I sort of, you know, thought, right, I'm just going to do it, and all I can say is I've not regretted it for a second. I'm at the end of the programme now, and I'm really glad I've done it. It's massively worked for me, and what, you know, what it's done for me, I think, is a little bit as what you say you're trying to do with it. It's not a quick fix. Like, this 90-day thing isn't just like, oh, 90 days and then you revert back to your old ways. And I think that's probably what I've done before. I don't feel like I'm going to do that this time. I feel like you always talk about habits, and building these habits, and locking them in is a term that's used a lot, and I do feel like it has helped me with that. So that's all I can say really. Is, would I recommend it? Yes, absolutely, and it's done a massive amount for me.
I love it.